In this video, we're going to show you how to rationalise the denominator where there are surds involved. First thing we need to do is explain what it means if you have to rationalise the denominator. The denominator is the bottom number in any fraction. And what you've got to do is remove any square root signs from the bottom of the fraction. In maths, it's thought of as sort of being not really very nice if you've got a square root sign on the bottom of the fraction. So we rationalise them. The way to do it may seem a bit strange to start with, but if you look at the example we've got here, root 3 over root 7, if we're going to rationalise the denominator here, we need to get rid of the root 7 on the bottom. At least we need to get rid of the square root sign anyway. And what you do is this, you say, okay, what number isn't a square root sign on the bottom? It's 7. So you times your fraction by root 7 over root 7. Because anything over itself is actually 1. This thing I've written down here, root 7 over root 7, is just a number 1 written down in a very strange way. But if we multiply this together, remember when you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply the top numbers together and multiply the bottom numbers together. So on the top, root 3 times by root 7, it's root 21. And the way I've done that is said that's the same as 7 times by 3, all square rooted. 7 times by 3 is 21, so that's root 21. And on the bottom, root 7 times by root 7, well, you may remember that any square root times by itself is the number inside the square root. So root 7 times root 7 is just 7. And if you're not sure where that came from, root 7 times by root 7 could be written down as 7 times by 7, all square rooted. So there you'd be doing the square root of 49, which is 7. Whichever way you think about it, whether you want to write down all the steps or not. If you look at what we've got over here, which is root 21 over 7, there's no longer a square root sign on the bottom. So we have now rationalised the denominator in that fraction. In the second example we're going to look at, we're going to start with 7 over 4 lots of root 3. So 7 divided by 4 lots of root 3. And the first thing you ask yourself is, okay, what is written inside a square root sign on the bottom of the fraction? It's the root 3. So you times by a root 3 over root 3. Remember, anything divided by itself, or any fraction with the same number on the top and the bottom, is just a number 1 written in a strange way. And if you times by 1, you don't change the value of what you had to start with. But by doing this trick, on the top I've got 7 times by root 3. What I can do with that is just write it down as 7 root 3. And on the bottom I've got 4 times by root 3 times by root 3. Let's just think first off about the root 3 times by root 3. Because it's the same square root and we're multiplying by itself, root 3 times by root 3 is 3. 3 times by that 4 is 12. So 4 root 3 times by root 3 is 12. And there's my answer, 7 root 3 over 12. And if you notice, there's no longer a square root sign on the bottom of the fraction. So I've answered the question, I've rationalised the denominator. Just go through that bottom bit again. Root 3 times by root 3 is a normal 3. It also had to be times by a 4. So the normal 3 times by the 4 gave us that 12. If we look at a third example just to finish, which is 5 root 3 divided by 6 root 12. First thing we ask ourselves is, okay, what square root is on the bottom? It's a root 12. So we times our fraction by root 12 over root 12, which is just 1 written down in a very strange way. Now, on the top, I've got 5 and root 3 times by root 12. Well, 3 12s are 36. So root 3 times by root 12 is root 36. Now, root 36 is just 6. So 5 times by the square root of 36 is 5 times by 6. And 5 times by 6 is 30. Now, we need to work at the bottom again of our fraction. We've got 6 root 12 times by root 12. We pretend the 6 isn't there for a minute. The root 12 times by root 12 is a normal 12. I'll write that in, and then I've got to times that by the 6. 6 12s are 72. So now I've got 30 over 72. And no surds involved at all. With that fraction, I can cancel that down. If you spot that 6 goes into both of those numbers, 6 goes into 30 5 times, and 6 goes into 72 12 times. So my final answer for this question is going to be 5/12.